The National Shooting Sports Foundation, NSSF, took shape in 1961 in Connecticut, emerging from industry meetings and collaboration with the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute, which merged its promotional work with the foundation in 1963. Its purpose is not consumer lobbying, but industry stewardship, supporting hunting and shooting participation, safety, and a stable business environment for manufacturers, distributors, retailers, and ranges. Programs grew around recruitment and safety, National Hunting and Fishing Day, Step Outside, Families Afield, First Shots, the Hunting Heritage Partnership, and the Scholastic Clay Target Program that became a national youth pipeline. Project ChildSafe launched in 1999 and distributed millions of cable locks through local enforcement agencies, positioning safety as a public good rather than a partisan identifier. The SHOT Show, first staged in 1979, became the central commercial and cultural event for the sector, generating revenue for the foundation and convening the entire supply chain under one roof. Government relations teams monitor and respond to state and federal proposals affecting the industry, with messaging that stresses conservation partnerships, lawful use, and the economic footprint of hunting and target shooting. The NSSF's image is moderate and business-oriented, focused on heritage, participation, and safety rather than electoral politics. Over 6 decades, that posture turned the foundation into the industry's connective tissue, linking culture, commerce, and conservation in a single annual cycle. Second Amendment Foundation. Founded in 1974 by Alan Gottlieb in Washington State, SAF was designed as a litigation-first institution backed by scholarship and public education. The structure is a 501c3 with a national membership and a portfolio of publications, including the Gun Mag and the Journal on Firearms and Public Policy, paired with recurring conferences that convene attorneys and academics. SAF's docket expanded over decades to hundreds of actions across state and federal courts. The organization was central to the post-Heller phase, in which incorporation of the Second Amendment against the states became reality through a case it filed and shepherded. Earlier, it helped stop gun seizures after Hurricane Katrina and successfully challenged local restrictions and permit practices that were inconsistent with state law or constitutional protections. Affiliates reinforce the model. The Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms serves as a 501c4 partner for education and advocacy, while Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership contributes medical and public health analysis. Annual conferences, including the Legal Scholars Conference and the Gun Rights Policy Conference, sustain a pipeline of litigators and historical researchers who contribute to briefs that track the Supreme Court's text and history methodology. Membership growth and donor support followed these milestones. The organization's public posture is lawyerly and research-driven, aimed at durable precedent rather than short-term headlines. Controversy around background check negotiations by allied leaders occasionally sparked internal debate over strategy, but the through line remained courtroom success and scholarly framing. SAF's legacy is the normalization of sustained, strategic lawfare that reshaped the doctrinal landscape and continues to influence how lower courts apply the right to carry and to possess arms.
Rod of Iron Ministries. Rod of Iron Ministries originated after a schism in the Unification Church following Sun Myung-yun's death. Hyunjin Sean Moon established a Pennsylvania-based church that combined apocalyptic Christian teaching with gun symbolism, referencing Revelation's Rod of Iron. Public ceremonies invited congregants to bring AR pattern rifles to be blessed as emblems of protection and responsibility. Leadership ties to Carr Arms through Kukchin Justin Moon provided a visible industry connection, while webcast commentary positioned the group within right-leaning media spheres. The ministry drew significant media attention and criticism, including designations by watchdog groups that objected to its rhetoric and pageantry. Supporters described it as an assertion of faith and self-defense culture. Detractors viewed it as provocative. Its footprint is minor compared to national advocacy organizations, but the movement occupies a distinctive corner where religious ritual and gun culture intersect. The result is consistent but low-profile visibility at conservative rallies and on social platforms, rather than a traditional lobbying or litigation program. National Rifle Association, NRA. Founded in 1871 in New York by Union veterans William C. Church and George Wingate, the NRA began as a marksmanship society dedicated to promote and encourage rifle shooting on a scientific basis. Early public partnerships supplied state funds and surplus rifles for competition, and the organization opened Creedmoor Range in 1873 before major matches migrated to Seagirt and then Camp Perry as programs expanded. The mission centered on training, ranges, and youth development for decades. A legislative arm appeared in 1934, formalized later as the Institute for Legislative Action in 1975, which shifted the center of gravity toward national advocacy. The internal realignment after the 1977 annual meeting marked a more assertive constitutional posture and made the Second Amendment the organizing principle for its public voice. Membership historically hovered in the millions, with a broader self-identified support cohort measured in polling. Training remains a large-scale operation. Hunter education dates to 1949, law enforcement instructor certification to 1960, and civilian courses are administered by a nationwide network of instructors. Youth and collegiate rifle programs trace to 1903. The Eddie Eagle program began in the late 1980s and spread through schools and civic groups. Publications and the NRA Foundation, formed in 1990, reinforce a broad safety and education footprint. Funding combines dues, donations, and allied political activity. The organization has played roles in federal policy moments across the 20th and 21st centuries, from shaping the 1934 law to opposing registry language in 1968 and supporting liability protection for manufacturers decades later. Influence was particularly visible in Republican administrations and in national elections, while state-level outcomes varied widely. Controversy in the last decade brought sustained scrutiny. A New York civil action alleging corruption and self-dealing created leadership challenges, reputational damage, and membership headwinds. The group continues to mobilize members through magazines and direct communications around legislative calendars, and its training and competition infrastructure sustains participation at local ranges and at Camp Perry. The legacy spans from 19th-century rifle clubs to a central role in modern gun politics, weaving match culture, education, and national advocacy into a single institutional identity.
Gun Owners of America, GOA, formed in 1975 under California State Senator H.L.L. Bill Richardson amid dissatisfaction with what many activists perceived as NRA moderation. The organization defined itself from the outset as no compromise, framing the right to keep and bear arms as an individual liberty that resists incremental restrictions or transactional bargains. The structure includes the Gun Owners Foundation for education and legal support, a political victory fund for elections, and state affiliates such as Gun Owners of California. The base is national, grassroots, and constitutionally minded, with communications that emphasize text and history arguments and a civil liberties framing of firearms ownership. GOA participated in the modern legal architecture around the Second Amendment through briefs and litigation support in the landmark federal cases that affirmed and then incorporated the right. It also backed carry rights challenges in federal appellate courts and has pursued suits aimed at limiting regulatory expansion by executive agencies, including matters involving accessory classifications and enforcement boundaries. The organization is often characterized as pushing peers rightward, at times publicly criticizing compromise proposals favored by larger groups. That posture draws criticism for perceived intransigence, but also cements its brand among activists who prefer maximalist interpretations of the amendment. The modern portfolio features challenges to administrative rulemaking and support for permitless carry campaigns, while outreach includes seminars, local club engagement, and legal defense assistance. As other groups navigated internal crises, GOA's profile rose within the movement's hardline camp. Its legacy is that of a consistent constitutional absolutist, anchoring one pole of the advocacy spectrum. Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC, launched in 2013 in Sacramento as a 501c4 anchored in litigation and rapid policy response. From inception, it presented itself as a modern civil rights shop, building an in-house legal team to challenge state statutes and federal rules while communicating in real time through digital social platforms and donor newsletters. The legal portfolio includes challenges to federal reinterpretations of accessories and components, with cases aimed at the scope of the Gun Control Act's definitions and at agency authority under administrative law. In appellate courts, FPC-backed cases sought injunctions that in certain instances applied explicitly to members during litigation. The organization also contests state restrictions enacted under emergency rationales or justified by public safety claims that it argues do not comport with the Supreme Court's historical tests. State litigation runs in parallel with national efforts. Laws in California and Oregon drew suits that targeted permitting schemes, waiting periods, magazine limits, and ballot-initiated restrictions. After the Supreme Court refined the carry framework, FPC oriented filings to that decision standard, pressing history and tradition arguments in district and circuit courts and highlighting conflicts where states attempted to rebuild restrictive, sensitive places or good cause regimes. The coalition collaborates with peer organizations when interests align and accepts support from individual donors and industry sponsors. Communications are blunt and immediate, tailored to a digital audience that expects constant updates.
Not every suit succeeds, but victories at key moments reinforce the group's image as a fast-moving legal engine. Its impact is measured in preliminary relief, doctrinal pressure on administrative agencies, and a steady stream of filings that test the outer limits of permissible regulation. National Association for Gun Rights, NAGR, incorporated in 2000 under Dudley Brown as a national extension of earlier state-level activism, the organization styles itself as harder-edged than legacy institutions, built around pressure campaigns that focus lawmakers' attention through mail, phone, and targeted media. A companion foundation supports litigation and constitutional challenges, while a political action committee engages in endorsements and election spending. The mission is maximalist: permitless carry, opposition to magazine limits, and resistance to international agreements seen as threats to domestic ownership. State House fights became a specialty, where pledge drives and whip counts could swing votes on tight calendars. The legal arm filed amicus briefs in major cases and pursued challenges to federal property carry bans and municipal fee mandates tied to gun ownership. This approach produced friction. Critics objected to the tenor of fundraising and the rhetoric used in campaign mailers, while rivals questioned credit-claiming practices around legislative wins. Supporters argued that unapologetic messaging moved wavering legislators in ways conciliatory talks did not. The result was a group that often defined the right flank of the lobbying ecosystem and influenced the vocabulary used by candidates during primary season. Its impact is most visible in states that adopted constitutional carry and in the persistent pressure exerted on larger organizations to avoid middle ground bargains. Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Established in 1972 and headquartered in Washington state, CCR-KBA functions as SAF's 501c4 counterpart, devoted to public education and grassroots mobilization. The committee works through affiliates in key states, pairing in-state lobbying with national campaigns that explain policy implications to a general audience. Amicus filings support high-profile litigation, including the Carey case that clarified the modern standard for licensing and sensitive places law. The committee has at times adopted a pragmatic posture when proposed compromises contained provisions favorable to lawful owners, a stance that generated debate inside the ecosystem as it underscored CCR-KBA's educational orientation. Television issue ads, email campaigns, and collaborations with state rifle associations amplify the message. Membership and supporter counts place the committee among the largest education-focused entities in the space, with a steady presence at conferences and in court briefs. As other groups navigated turbulence, CCR-KBA's niche, teaching the public, nudging lawmakers, and supporting litigation with historical and policy materials, remained consistent.
Appleseed Project, Revolutionary War Veterans Association. Project Appleseed began in 2005 under Jack Fred Daly as a volunteer program within the Revolutionary War Veterans Association. The model is simple and durable. Teach fundamental rifle marksmanship while telling the story of Lexington and Concord to encourage civic responsibility. The organization is explicitly apolitical to preserve its nonprofit status. Instructors avoid commentary on current legislation during events. Two-day clinics use 25-meter targets that scale to simulate distance out to 400 yards. allowing a rimfire-friendly curriculum that keeps ammunition costs manageable. Known distance courses extend instruction to 200 and 400 yards where facilities allow, and a pistol curriculum adds handling and accuracy fundamentals on a similar template. Instructor development is structured and visible. Orange, red, and green hats signal progression from trainee to full instructor to event lead. Affiliation with the Civilian Marksmanship Program opens equipment opportunities for participants, and a Canadian sister program adapts the format north of the border. Attendance has reached into the hundreds of thousands over 2 decades, supported by a large volunteer corps. The result is a nationwide pipeline that takes new shooters from basic safety and positions to repeatable accuracy within a weekend, linking technical skill with the history of citizen marksmanship. American Suppressor Association, ASA. The ASA formed in 2011 to pursue a single objective: normalize and deregulate suppressors as hearing protection tools. At its launch, only a few dozen states permitted civilian ownership and fewer allowed hunting with suppressors. The association organized statehouse campaigns to legalize ownership and hunting use, and coordinated with national groups and industry to present technical data and public safety arguments. Progress arrived in stages. Ownership became lawful in additional states, and hunting use expanded widely through legislative sessions as wildlife agencies and lawmakers examined field evidence. At the federal level, the association pressed for improvements to the regulatory process to reduce unpredictable wait times for transfers, arguing that modern systems could maintain vetting without imposing months-long delays. Membership includes manufacturers, distributors, dealers, and individual owners. Public events and live demonstrations demystify equipment for media and legislators, while research on sound pressure and hearing loss supports safety claims. The association's position is pragmatic and technical rather than philosophical, which made it a useful partner to larger groups when suppressor policies surfaced within broader firearms debates. Ongoing goals include finishing legalization in the remaining states and streamlining federal procedures so that point-of-sale approval becomes plausible. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch this one. It means a lot when people stick around and share an interest in the same topics that keep this channel going. If you found the video informative, consider passing it along to other firearm enthusiasts who'd enjoy it as much as you did. And if there's something specific you'd like explored next time, whether it's a piece of history, a technical deep dive, or a new development in the gun world, feel free to mention it down in the comments.